Hello. In this video, we are going to make a line graph where we have bounds on the highest and lowest values that we have observed over the last, say, 20 years or so. In a previous video, I made this graph on the top, and you can see we've got a maximum and we've got a minimum, and then we've got a dashed line that shows the average value over the time period, and then the blue line shows the values from the current year. And this is a helpful tool to see how the current year is faring compared to previous years. And what we're going to be making in this video is the bottom graph, which does not look very different. If you look at the blue lines, they are slightly different because I'm graphing a different year's worth of data, but don't be scared by that. Obviously, the main difference is on the top graph, we just have dashed lines to show the maximum and the minimum. And in this video, we will be just filling in the whole area between the maximum and the minimum. I think the bottom graph is a better looking graph, easier to understand. I just like it aesthetically. Now, the problem, of course, is that it's more work. So if you've seen the other video, that might be helpful to watch beforehand, but you ought to be fine either way. So the data we have here is we've got, 24, 5 years worth of data. This is the amount of money that the casinos in Washoe County, Nevada have won. And if you just graph them all, as I did in the previous video, you just see this giant mess. So making a line graph of the whole thing. And we have to switch the rows and the columns here. You can see that everything was shut down for a while in 2020, so that's really not helpful. And so what I'm going to do is just get the highs and the lows from 1998 through 2019. And again, there is no excuse for showing anyone this graph. It's horrible with 25 different color lines. You kidding me? Who's going to tell the difference between all those yellows and blues and browns and greens and stuff? So that's why the range is a helpful thing. So let's just get rid of that ugly thing. Now, in the previous video, I showed how to calculate the minimum from that whole distance, of all the values in that range, and the maximum. It's really simple. Just use the min and the max and the average formulas. But what we need to calculate now is we have the average for each period and the maximum and the minimum. We need to calculate the difference between the minimum and the average. So the height of this distance here, and then the height of the distance between the average and the maximum. So that's really simple math. So let me make this column a little, well, here, I'll go ahead and do it first. So the average minus the minimum, what's that distance? And then the maximum minus the average, what's that difference? And then we'll just make that column wider. So we take the average, 66, minus the minimum, which was 52. So we get 13.5. And then the maximum was 84. And we subtract the average, which was 66. And so that is going to tell us, we're going to graph these three lines, the minimum, the average minus the minimum, and then the maximum minus the average. Those are the three we're going to graph. And so to make it just a little easier, I'm going to insert a row here, and I'm just going to delete this and then move it down, and then delete a row. So we're going to graph the minimum, and then how much larger is the average than the minimum, and then how much larger is the maximum compared to the average. So I'm going to copy these formulas over here and paste them. And so, like I said, I'm going to highlight these three rows, and we're going to create a graph, but this time we're making a stacked area graph. And so this is going to be the maximum, minimum, and the average for 1998 to 2019. It's if you look at the graph we made before, compare it, it's the same, the numbers are the same, like the peak here is around 100, the peak here is around 100. So we've got this stacked graph first thing we're going to do is we're going to go in here and change this fill color to remove the fill color. Then we're going to go here to this orange, and we're going to change the fill color to go to, let's go with this light gray. And then I'm going to change this fill color to hopefully be the same light gray. Okay, so we've got the bands of the high and the low. And now what we want to do is I want to add into the graph, I want to add the average. So I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to click select data, and I'm going to add, and the series name here is just the average, and the data values are here, the average values, and I hit enter, and now look at that. I screwed up the graph because now the average has been piled on top. Don't worry, we'll fix that. But before we do, we're going to add in the data from the year 2022. So this will be 2022. And then the values are just those cells right there. Hit enter. And go back here. And yeah, we really screwed up the graph big time. We'll fix it quite quickly though. So go here to this area, the average, and we're going to change the series chart type. And so if you look here, we have all of the series of data that we are plotting, and they're all stacked areas. But what we're going to do here is to the average and the 2022 data, we're going to change this. Instead of being stacked area, we're just going to make it a line graph. And if we go back and look at it, hey, look at that. Now the average is right down the middle between the high and the low. This is what we're looking for. And so let's go back here and change this one. I could have done them both at once, but I just wanted to go look at them and change this one to a line graph. And now we're really cooking. So let's go here and let's see, let's change the outline here. Let's make this black. And let's make it a long dash, and then we'll leave the blue, it's fine. Then down here in the legend, if you look at the legend, like 2022 is a solid line, the average is a dashed black line, the maximum minus the average, and the average minus the minimum, those are gray, and then the minimum is invisible. It doesn't really help to have an invisible thing in your legend, if you ask me. So I'm going to go in here and click each of these things that I don't really want anymore and just hit the old delete key and go click on this one and delete this and go in here and click on this and delete that. But I still need to let people know where the maximum and the minimum are. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to insert a text box, and I'm just going to type max and shrink this up a little bit maybe. And then I'm going to increase the font size, and then I'm going to copy it, Control C, and whoa, I'm going to do, and paste it, Control V. I accidentally pasted that as the fill for the area below, which was kind of fun, but not what I was trying to do. So now we've got the graph I was looking for, and I've got the max and the min, and we've got the averages, and I don't know. We go back over here, and hopefully this will look like the one I said I was going to make. I think it's a little different because here I was graphing the 2021 data, and here I graphed the 2022 data, but it's the same idea. Is it a lot more work? Not really. Is it a better looking graph? I think so. So we've made a line graph with maximum and minimum and a band filled in between them. And then we've plotted the average, and we've plotted the data of interest from the current year. And if it's in the middle of the year, this is perhaps an even more valuable tool because we could see how are things going compared to recent maximums and minimums. And, you know, are we online with what we're hoping for? You could also obviously add a line for what the forecast for the given year had been, just to see how we're tracking with regards to the forecast. So I hope this has been helpful.